Hello, hi. This is Saeed. I am an atheist. I would like to introduce myself. That I born in Saudi Arabia, and I grew up as a Muslim, and I'm from Yemen. I end up to become an atheist, and here we are with Cole. Let's say hi, Cole.
Hello, Sai. I'll introduce myself. So my name is Cole. And I guess really to start to, um, we want to really just have kind of a conversation about the experiences of kind of two people from very different backgrounds. So Saeed, as he mentioned, is an ex-Muslim, and I am an ex-Christian, but specifically in a very kind of insular, small part of Christianity called Pentecostalism.
After I read a lot about Islam, the history of Islam, the Hadith, and they have a lot of experience visiting a lot of holy places of Muslim warriors, like Mecca and other places too. I like to read a lot.
So I have a little less interesting background than Saeed. I'm originally from Tennessee, but I lived in Texas, North Carolina, Virginia, all around. But my background, like I said, is Pentecostalism, and specifically a sect that diverged in a very rural part of Tennessee. So for those kind of unfamiliar with Pentecostalism, I know Muslim was a little more well known. But Pentecostalism is a version of Christianity that is not only kind of extreme, but is very kind of emotional in nature. So if you've ever seen those videos of people kind of flailing around, I had to show Simon because he had never seen these, but flailing around on the ground and screaming and crying, etc. I think one video I saw a long time ago was they had put picked and the Pentecostal people praying, and a lot of times they'll kind of fall down on the ground, and so they had to put it to the song of like let the bodies hit the floor. And that was, I think, a lot of people's. It went viral back then. YouTube was first around, and I think that's probably a lot of people's first introduction in that. But yeah, so like I said, I'm an ex-Pentecostal, and we just kind of want to have a conversation throughout this episode and the others about the differences in our background, but I think also a lot of the similarities. I mean, um, these are two fundamentalist versions of religion that we both came from. Um, Extreme in a lot of ways, and I think also similar in a lot of ways as well. So I guess Saeed, if you want to, you can talk a little more about your background, especially like in Saudi Arabia, and maybe I can go into my journey, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Cole, about this introduction. When I grew up in Saudi Arabia, it's everything about Islam, like the school, uh, the culture, the mosque. The law in Saudi Arabia is taught also come from the Quran and the Hadith too. So I didn't imagine that one day I'm going to become an atheist. Uh, but I said there is something more. What is it? I don't know. And then when I start to investigate Islam more and more, uh, in Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of people marry a second and third, fourth wife, and one of them is my father. Why? Uh, and then I start to investigate Islam more because my father didn't like what I did, actually. Uh, and there is a law in Saudi Arabia: if you don't listen to your father or your parents, probably you face consequences from the law. Uh, and I went to jail because of this. And then when I went out, I started to investigate Islam for real. When I opened all those books about the Quran, I took the holy from the Quran. I started to read it as a book. Uh, And then I found something is really scary. First of all, I said, I'm right. And the other version of Islam, like Shia, they're gonna go to hell for sure. But I said, there's probably over 350 million people around the world, like in Iran, Iraq, Syria, part of Syria, now in Yemen, which when the Houthi came, uh, he started to flip those people to believe in Islam in a Sunni way to a Shia way. So he has his own agenda, and he pushed his agenda probably through mosques over there in Yemen. People in Yemen not educated that much, so they believed on him, and this is why we see now a lot of Yemeni, yep, Yemeni people become Shia Muslim. Anyway, when I said those people are wrong and they gotta go to hell for sure, because we are the only way to God, true way to God. Uh, there's a hadith say there is 72 version of Islam. All of them gonna go to hell except one version. Yeah, so I said that's too much, kind of like probably the whole Homo sapien gonna go to hell, you know, got into that hadith. Uh, and then when I start to read about the history of Islam, so there is a 4 later after Muhammad passed away, Abu Bakr and Omar and Uthman, and after that Ali. So when you read the history of Islam, you realize that those people, they were not fighting for God's word. They were fighting for power and money. I remember this one story also that after Abu Bakr died, Omar, he came under the ground and he put the knife, and he said, I'm the leader. I'm the leader, and you're right,
Quite a way to claim the crown.
right, yeah. And after that also, you see the history of Islam, also those leaders who came after that, they were using God for their own benefit. And they was asking, where's God? Why he didn't show up and correct those people, actually. Those people, like, talk those population right and left, depend where's the benefit are, actually. Not what God want. And who's God? Who represent God of Islam? Is it the Quran? Is it the Hadith? So we can understand that this is what represent Islam. We can separate them from Muslims. Uh, and also when you travel around Middle East or around the world too, everyone practice Islam in a different way. Some of them, they speak Arabic, which understand what going on in the Quran. Some of them are not. But they believe in Islam. Whatever the Imam told them to believe, or the way how they should believe. And also one of the things that the religious leader actually of Muslim world, they try to redirect Islam depend what the leader of the country wants. That's what opened my eyes, actually, that there is something wrong. I was so scared to talk about my opinion on that because, if you criticize Islam, what the consequences is. Uh, there is a hadith actually said, if you stop believing in Islam, you have 3 days. You have to go back to believe in Islam, or you're gonna face the penalty. Uh, at the beginning, I start to communicate with those people to let them understand this is not right. That I face actually people who against this thing, and they say that you don't know what you are talking about, and thank God that you are not here. Otherwise, we're gonna, you know, uh, probably kill you or punish you to those things. I really feel sorry for those people who think for themselves in Islamic State, whatever state is, and they face this consequences from people and from the law and from their own family. That was really scary at that too.
And how long were you? You said that you were in jail because you basically like essentially disobeyed your father. Um, First off, like I mean, how long were you in jail? And then what was that? What was that like?
Yeah, I was there for a few months, uh, and then after that, my father dropped the case because it's gonna go to another level to the court, and the judge probably gonna make a decision depend on that, depend according to the Quran or Sharia law, and that probably you can face maybe 1 year
Yeah.
or around that. Uh,
So it was like a timeout. Your father put you in timeout, but just in a jail.
yes, right, right. And when I went outside, actually, a lot of my relatives they asked me to accept the deal, whatever the deal is, because look around, right and left, people, cannot face the law and Sharia laws actually because you can face consequences, so you have to just accept the deal, whatever the deal is, and I really feel sorry for those people who accept this state because I couldn't see my mother that way, you know. Uh, if like your father marry a second or third wife and he start to just control whatever the law he want to put in the house, he can, and the law, Sharia law supports it, according to the Quran and the Hadith too. Uh, when I went inside, everyone asked me, "What is your case? What is your case?" Yeah, that was funny and scary. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Your case was just disobeying your father.
but
Wow. Well, I think I mean obviously like if I mentioned my background isn't as extreme. But I think how I arrived, and I would consider myself more of an agnostic atheist, but you know, I don't, to be honest with you, I don't really think about that much. I just don't believe. Um, and I don't believe anything that really comes along with that. That's all that's it. But I guess how I got here was so I was, an absolute true believer in Pentecostalism. I was doing what was called speaking in tongues, which to someone who's not Pentecostal is just um, similar to babbling, but you think it's a angelic language, like God is speaking through you, but it's not like God is saying actual words. It's just like, but that's like the height of kind of the emotional experience in that. I, like I said, was a true believer. I was high up doing things in the church and in youth group and um, go into things like I don't know if anyone's maybe you haven't, but um, there's this documentary called Jesus Camp about these people who go to this like essentially a summer camp with its religious summer camp, and you see all these kids like crying on the floor and talking about God and all these things, and so I had attended many of those. I always kind of had some doubt, so I would, especially around like what is considered a sin and not a sin. So similar to Islam, actually, in my version of Christianity, all alcohol was a sin and would send you to hell. If you obviously, if you were not a Christian, you were going to hell. If you were, in some cases, a Christian but not the right Christian, kind of Sunni Shia, if you were a Catholic or whatever, you would also be going to hell. A lot of things can send you to hell in Pentecostalism, but I did have some doubts, especially regarding like things when you're growing up, especially as a teenage boy. You know, you um, look at, in my case, it was more so looking at men, and that was a absolute sin above all sins. And so I kind of struggled there with that. But what really kind of precipitated me starting the path to leaving that version of Christianity was when I did get in college, and I was accidentally outed as bisexual because I had a boyfriend in my first few months of college, because I got in college and it's been free to 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 do different things, and I'd started to kind of question my brothers with that before that point. Um, and that basically, kind of similar to you, just broke apart my entire family. I That period in time was, extremely difficult. I mean, there was a lot of kind of hellfire and stuff shouted at me from people that I loved. Um, my parents especially, and I ultimately ended up losing all the free will in life because of that. Um, I held on to kind of a monoretic version of Christianity, a Christianity that was not Pentecostalism, that was more similar to like, yeah, Episcopalian or Lutheran, all the nice, nice sounding churches. And ultimately, it wasn't until I was at college that I began to um, start to really look into the development of the Bible. So you mentioned that one of the things that kind of helped you was realizing, why didn't God come down and correct the people who were wrong? So for me, it was okay, so the Bible has gone through multiple iterations and multiple copying, just the amount of copying. So there's original text that we know of from archaeologists. And even though we don't have that original text now, and in many cases, we know it was copied and then copied and then copied. And there are literal transcripts of a copy of biblical text where there's a scribe who is warning other scribes, hey, stop editing this text, because scribes literally just edit it to 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 fit their own personal beliefs. And so for me, what precipitated my kind of final break with Christianity as a whole was the fact that, okay, if God is real and he loves me and he wants me to be a part of this religion, or in the terminology that I came from, for Jesus to come into your heart, so for you to accept Jesus as the Savior, then why is it that he would allow such a flawed text where we don't necessarily know what the original writers had in some cases? Why would he allow that to exist? Because that doesn't show me a love of, okay, I love you, I want you to know the truth. It's, I've allowed the truth to be so distorted and distilled to a point where we can't even know what the original, so to speak, inspired word of God was.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of precipitated my break. I mean, obviously what I had gone through with my family, my current coming out period was extremely difficult, but I separated that a lot from, I think I was on the journey to leave Pentecostalism before that happened. And that was I had been threatened to be voted out of my church. They literally were going to vote me out being a member of my church because I was attracted to men.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that it was some sort of bitterness about Christianity that led to this point. It was, what did I actually believe, and whether what was being shown to me, what I know is actually true. I think that's how I kind of got to this point. Um, but like I said, now that I'm here, I don't really think about it too much. I am still struggling to get over things, which is why we decide we could do this. Still troubling to get over dealing with such a fundamentalist religion and how that changes the way you think, even when you're out of it. But I don't really think much more than that. Okay, well, what kind of atheist am I? What kind of this, that, and the other? It's, well, I'm living God, and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I understand that a lot of drama behind that when you believe that there's a God in the sky, you know, that you used to listen to, I mean, religious leader when you go to church, and also when you ask your parents about that God, in the school also, then you realize that God is not the right God. And then you got shocked because, okay, probably all the life that I used to live is a lie. What's the truth then? Or like, you can have a trust issue. I mean, it's difficult to trust anyone else. And that's understandable, actually. That's what's happened to me when I realized that Islam is not a true like way to God. I got shocked, you know. I I told you earlier that mother of my grandfather, she's a Christian, but she converted to Islam because she married my father of my grandfather. And my grandfather, before he passed away, he told me that his mom, she told him that she's a Christian. She used to live in serve in the church, uh, and I saw this happen over and over again. People change their belief because they want to marry someone else, or like they want to probably like someone, so if they try to convert to that religion. But when she said that to my grandfather, probably she didn't believe in Islam. She converted to Islam just to marry and have kids and have family. But in the bottom of her heart, that she's still Christian, and which my mom told me also the same thing. Don't forget that you born as a Muslim. I said I didn't born as a Muslim. I born as an atheist, but you choose that.
Yeah.
And your father told me that his mom told him, "Don't forget that you are Christian." The same thing. But people probably don't pay attention, don't question the faith. They just practice the religion that they grow up with, and they go through life. They don't ask that much. We can know also that God give comfort to human being to let him face difficulties in this world. One of the things that I read about the history of Islam. So before Muhammad came, people in Middle East, he used to create God from dates, by create God here or there, that go believe in that status of God, and the other group believe in that status of God. Yeah, and when Muhammad came, he got some knowledge from the Bible, probably, from Christianity, which Christianity older than Islam, and from Judaism, which much more older than both of them. And he said that he's the last prophet. Which, if we can look at this, he got a lot of stories from Christianity and Judaism. Because of this, we have a lot of similarity, like the characters. Probably, I'm saying, we talk about Abraham, right? Joseph, Isaac. We talk about David. Or we talk about Moses, Ishmael too, and we talk about Mary, Jesus in the Quran. But he said also that considerate Islam and Christianity, that Christians say Jesus, Son of God, and Muhammad said Jesus is just a prophet. And those who say Jesus is the Son of God gonna go to hell, like you, sir. You know?
Yes.
And he also in the Quran criticized a lot of Jews because they probably try to convert those Jews. At that time, they refused to convert to Islam, so he tried over and over again, and they rejected Muhammad. So he started to kick them outside, and that's what he did. So I'm not forcing anyone to take the holy from the Quran and read the Quran as a regular book. And look, how do you feel? Do you feel this is words of God? Or do you feel this is a poetry? Like it's just a book talking about something like in that time. And this is follow what your mind and probably your heart tell you. But also what I'm gonna say here, that there is 1.8 billion Muslim around the world. So there is a old fashioned of Islam, and there is a modern fashion. So, like we gotta talk about Dubai, UAE now. Talk about probably maybe Saudi Arabia in the way to be as a modern country of Islam. Tunisia is a modern country of Islam. There's a lot of look around there. I would like to ask from those leader actually, don't go out for those people who doesn't want to believe in Islam. Yeah, especially this time when we have social media, we those people travel around the world. That they meet, a lot of people from different background, so they are open-minded. Let them talk about them, speak their mind, freely, and they don't face consequences. Yeah, this is my message.
And I think there's a lot of similarity in that respect between where you came from and what I did. So like, I mean, specifically, if you read the biblical and Quranic texts as a book, and I do think you see it differently, you disconnect some of the emotion out of it. There are, I mean, I hate to just frame it like the ridiculous sounding examples, but I mean, like, there was literally King David, you carrying around a bag of foreskins, or there was a talking snake. There's a talking donkey as well, multiple talking animals in the Bible. So there's things that like you see if you read it as a book and you take off the kind of emotion behind it, where it becomes harder to be like, well, okay, do I actually believe in this, or do I feel, kind of emotional connection into it that is making me kind of believe that. And then I think too, obviously both scholars, a lot of people tell. I think you mentioned, a lot of the talk about Islamic and Quranic texts, specifically on Jews, because the Jews rejected Islam. I think there's some hypocrisy in my background, because they'll often come and say, how terrible Muslims are to Jews. They think they're pro hell. They, among other things. But if you asked the people in my former church, where do you think they end up? It's going to be hell, because they didn't accept Jesus Christ. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of times, especially, conversation in America regarding fundamentalist Christianity, there's a lot of hypocrisy in that they have similar beliefs to that of Islam or even other religions that they also believe are going to hell. I mean, we both did believe in alcohol, did believe in all other different, like whether it's like sexual sins or all of these different types of sins that just seem to line up. So yeah, I think that's kind of one of the similarities. And as I was going through, recovering from this extremely difficult background I had and how that affects me in life, that was one of the things that I started to realize is, okay, I always made fun of Mormons.
Yeah.
And I remember in one of the groups that I had joined and recovering from religion, there was an ex-Mormon there, and she talked about the different emotions she had and the things the church did, and I was like, wow, I really relate to this. Like, I really relate to what an ex-Mormon, and I used to make fun of Mormons, but it's the same kind of ridiculousness and fundamentalist religion that pervades whether it's Islam, Mormonism, Pentecostals. And I do also want to mention there are obviously billions of Muslims. Pentecostalism is actually one of the fastest growing Christian denominations around the world. So in Africa, it's very fast growing. South Korea, there's large Pentecostal sects. So there's a lot of kind of backward, we're going take 2 steps forward and then backwards as far as fundamentalism. So even though Christianity has modernized a lot, the fact that this very progressive and very insular denomination is growing, I think is like scary.
Yeah.
Because I had been to Africa before, and I remember seeing billboards for churches that were very similar to mine. I was like, I'm halfway across the world, and I'm seeing this here too. Like that's scary. So yeah.
Yeah. Like when you look earlier at Africa, half of them are Muslim and half of them are Christian. So you can tell there's a war between Islam and Christianity. Who gonna win more part of Africa to let them become in his own side? And there's a lot of war actually, too, between some African countries if they haven't have Christian and Islam, like Nigeria, probably. And yeah, and everyone he's like say that we are the only a true way to God.
Yeah.
So what do you think that people should believe if you don't believe in Christianity?
I mean, obviously, I have a bias towards not believing anything. Um, but if there is going to be a religion that you accept, I think it should be a religion that is not of the fundamentalist kind of persuasion, because I think that is where things kind of go awry. And I want to kind of make a caveat in that I have a slightly different belief in that I'm very happy that Christianity is modernized because there are more Christian denominations that will accept people like me. However, that said, I do believe that the background which I came from is a more correct interpretation of Christianity. I believe that the Bible does say that gay people are going to hell, that they are an abomination. I believe that the Bible says that. That's why I reject the Bible.
Right.
So I think that I appreciate and I want to see modern Christianity grow, while at the same time thinking, well, are they interpreting the Bible correctly? I don't think so.
I think that
Like I do think a true reading of of the biblical texts that are going to point you in a direction that, okay, maybe a modern interpretation of Christianity is not extremely biblical, but I'm grateful that it's not biblical. So, um, but yeah, so to answer your question, obviously, I lean towards I like more people to start questioning their own religious beliefs. While at the same time, I'm grateful that more moderate versions, be it Islam, Christianity, you see flowing in certain parts of the country or certain parts of the world as well.
Yeah, that's really good that we talk about it. It's just say, and we can see here in New York City that there's a lot of modern uh, uh, Christianity church. You know, the way how they practice Christianity, and they let the church uh, benefit people. You know, like work for people, serve people, not people serve the church. And I wish that can happen with a lot of modern Muslim countries. Uh, do you see any modern uh, mosque who follow the steps that modern Christianity?
I mean, I would say that a lot of American Muslim communities have. I think if whether you're looking at polls on like acceptance of homosexuality or other things, American Muslims far outpace, and in some communities, a majority acceptance of something like that. So yeah, I think I would point to really American Muslims, um, who were kind of leading that moderate version of Islam. So.
Yeah,
And I will say, like, what you're talking on with the, New York City having more moderate version of Christianity, that's something that I was not used to coming from the South. Because, I mean, there's a lot more churches in the South. In New York City, it's barely any compared to, like, walking, well, driving, any 0.1 mile, and you're going to get a church of not only multiple denomination, but maybe of a denomination of one, and then it's split off, and it's still at the same. Like there's a whole different thing that I think, especially people in New York, so you don't necessarily understand of Christianity.
I see that. It is exactly the same way how I see a lot of Muslim in New York City. They don't understand what Islam is. It's just practice Islam. They don't far away, as you mentioned earlier, from Islam itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that you need those moderate voices, even though, I would still prefer to question the religion itself. Because, I mean, I did have the moderate, in kind of my journey through this, that moderate version of Christianity, but now not to. But sometimes you need that extra push. And it can be really scary because, um, there is a lot of comfort in believing God. So for me, I remember I used to pray every single time I drove. It was terrified of driving. And it became like such a comforting thing to me. Because I'd be like, oh, please God, please make sure I don't crack, and etc. etc. That when the rug is pulled out, when either you lose that religion or he chose to step away from the religion, but you no longer believe it, it's like a whole new world. And in my case, like, I was not exposed to the same things that my friends were because Pentecostalism is so strict. I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies. I wasn't allowed to watch a whole host of things. I believed that things like band AC/DC from the 80s was demonic and satanic, and listening to certain rock music is going to bring Satan and demons in your life. So, like, when that's all gone, and then you have to be like, you feel like a fish out of water. We talk to people, and they're like, oh, have you seen this? Things such as simple as movies. Like, well, and I watched a lot of boxing movies because they were set for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I can't imagine what it's like for you coming out of, Saudi Arabia, especially.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand that. Like, uh, yeah. I remember I asked my uncle actually. He has a kidney. He need to wash like his
Dialysis.
yeah
Yeah.
every. And there is a religious leader in Egypt, very famous, and he said that you should not go to the doctor and help yourself and just let the God, deliver his message and just accept him. And I remember that I went to my uncle and I told him, why you don't go to the doctor? And he said that I don't wanna, against God message, but. And then I went to that and I start to use my respect to all those just,
Yeah.
you know, and how you, and he had the same issue after that, by the way, that religious leader.
Yeah.
And he went to the doctor, and he went to the doctor. He went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And like you ask people to do something that you don't want to do to yourself.
Yeah.
That was like really things that I dislike about those leaders. They don't have integrity. And there's also a religious leader in Qatar. He's Egyptian. His name Al-Qardawi. He said if we stop this hadith for to let everyone leave Islam, we're not gonna have no more Islam. So those people, they force people to leave Islam. They not just let them believe whatever they want and see the result, because the result's probably gonna be scary. They are afraid from the result. People gonna leave Islam uh, one after another. Uh, yeah, this is one thing that I would like to share.
So I have before we wrap up, I have a similar story in that, um, I, as a kid, I had, well, I mean, I still have, but there's just skin disorder, that's incurable, can only go into remission. And I had it extremely bad as a child. And I remember I had these, it was like a little box that had little scriptures. And I had convinced myself, kind of without a church, that I just prayed hard enough, this would go away. And so I kept praying and kept praying. And so at some point, I stopped putting my medication on. And instead, I put one of those little scriptures on it. So, like, if I thought about going to take it, I'd see the scripture and I wouldn't do it. Needless to say, I still have that skin disorder. I wasn't able to pray away that or pray away the gay either. So, it didn't work. But yeah, it encourages you to do things like that. And same thing with, there's certain versions of Pentecostals where you might have heard, like, people who handle the snakes. It's all a sect Pentecostalism. And people, they'll say, oh, God, if I have enough faith, this snake isn't going to kill me. And it bites them and they die in the hospital. So it's all that kind of craziness that happen when you convince yourself so hard to believe in a certain, very insular and fundamentalist sect of a religion. So
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. One of the things that I would like to share too, I was in China for 2 months, business trip, and then the second month it was the holy month of Muslim people, Ramadan. So I said that I should go back to, share this time with my family and in Saudi Arabia, and I came back and 3 days probably left from Ramadan to end. And then I went to the mosque and they found the Imam asking, God, please destroy all those people who doesn't believe in you and people behind him said like Amen, and just like he keep repeating this, in a different way, here and there. Just I was looking around, and I see the air condition from Japan, right? The light from China,
Yeah.
okay, the carpet from Vietnam, and the car outside GMC, Toyota, Hyundai, and this like I said, the microphone from Taiwan, right? And if this imam, if his God listened to her to destroy all those people, this guy, he will not have all this tool to let to pray, and that doesn't make sense totally.
Yeah.
I remember when I went back, I started to ask my family, what this imam talking about? Destroy those people.
Yeah.
Those people who create all the tools for you, and no one actually would like to answer or would like to question. So from that time, I find something off in Islam as well, and that was the funny thing that I wanted to share.
Well, I think this has been a good first conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope to do many more of these and find more similarities between our various odd backgrounds. I don't think I again can beat Saudi Arabia, but or being in prison for disobeying your dad, but maybe I'll be but yeah, it is always nice talking to you, Saeed.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Nice to talk to you. I also would like to say that thank the United States that we have this right to be who we are, to believe whatever we want to believe. And thank to New York Society for its good culture. Thank for NYC Atheists. To also Unitarian Church and Judson Church too. Yeah.
I still think they're wrong about the Bible, but I'm glad they exist.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Saeed.
Thank you. Thank you.